My arrogant dad secretly drained my $100,000 college fund to buy himself a luxury speedboat, so I used strict federal trust laws to completely liquidate his retirement and bankrupt him. I am a 22-year-old engineering student, and I have always been the absolute black sheep of my family. My older brother Kyle is the ultimate toxic golden child who has never worked a real job and completely failed out of 3 different colleges. When I was 10 years old, my wealthy grandfather passed away. He knew my parents were terrible with money, so he left exactly $100,000 exclusively to me. He placed the money in a legally protected UTMA account, which stands for the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act. My dad, Richard, was legally named the temporary financial custodian of the account until I officially turned 21. For over a decade, I worked incredibly hard, took out massive federal student loans, and ate cheap ramen noodles just to survive college, thinking I would pay it all off the exact second I turned 21. On my 21st birthday, I sat my dad down and asked him to officially sign over the master control of the UTMA account. Richard took a sip of his beer, literally laughed right in my face, and told me the account was completely empty. He smugly claimed he legally used all the money over the last 10 years to pay for household expenses and groceries. He aggressively told me that as my father, he had the absolute right to use that cash to raise me, and he told me to stop being a greedy, ungrateful brat. He thought I was just a dumb, broke college kid who wouldn't understand complex banking laws. But Richard was an absolute legal idiot who didn't understand the terrifying power of American trust law. I didn't yell, and I definitely didn't let it go. I hired a ruthless, cutthroat trust and estate litigator. In the United States, under UTMA regulations, that money legally belongs irrevocably to the minor the exact second it is deposited. The custodian has a strict fiduciary duty. They absolutely cannot spend a single dime of that money on basic parental obligations like food, shelter, or clothing, and they definitely cannot spend it on themselves. My lawyer immediately filed a massive civil lawsuit for gross breach of fiduciary duty and legally subpoenaed 10 years of his private financial records. We hired a forensic accountant, and they uncovered an absolute nightmare. Richard didn't spend my money on groceries. He illegally wired $50,000 to buy himself a brand new luxury speedboat. Then, he secretly transferred the remaining $50,000 to my golden child brother Kyle to fund a completely useless, failed cryptocurrency startup. When we presented the forensic audit in civil court, the probate judge was absolutely furious. The judge didn't just order him to pay back the original amount. Because Richard committed intentional financial fraud and stole from his own son, the judge hit him with massive statutory interest and punitive damages. The final court judgment was for exactly $180,000. Richard completely panicked and claimed he was completely broke, but the judge didn't care. To satisfy the massive legal judgment, the court legally authorized the forced seizure and complete liquidation of my dad's entire 401k retirement account. The court also placed a massive, inescapable lien directly on his primary house. Richard was legally forced to sell his precious speedboat at a massive loss just to pay his own expensive defense lawyers. He is now 60 years old, completely bankrupt, with absolutely zero retirement savings. My mom was so disgusted by the massive financial fraud that she immediately filed for a brutal divorce. Some of my toxic relatives called me a heartless sociopath for completely destroying my own father's retirement and ruining his marriage over a college fund. But let's be completely, brutally honest here. If your arrogant dad stole your $100,000 inheritance to buy a boat and laughed in your face, would you have liquidated his life savings too? Or are you weak enough to just accept massive student debt and let a thief win? Prove me wrong in the comments.